And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today, I'm talking with Steve McDaniel. Steve, thanks for taking some time to be on Experts Speak and share with us what you've got going on. I appreciate that.
You bet, Michael.
It is going to be a very intriguing conversation. Steve is an expert. He's a Ph.D. He works with companies high and low everywhere to help them use paints and coatings to address climate issues. And I'm just going to shut up, Steve, because I'm already over my head. I want to talk about this because it's really important. But how in the world did you get doing this?
Yeah, well, I'll be glad to address that. It started some 20 years ago, but yeah, I would suggest to you that paints and coatings, all right, are probably the largest industry you never thought about.
Okay.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Just take a minute, look around you.
Yeah.
See if you can find a surface that you don't think has been coated.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is if it's been manufactured by the hand of man, it's been coated, painted, shellacked, whatever. Right? Your clothes, your glasses, your dishes, your table, your chairs, your floor, your ceiling, all the lighting, they've all been coated at some point in their manufacturing process. So and typically paints and coatings are used to either protect the underlying surface or to decorate the underlying surface, or both. What our company is bringing to the fore, and it's working nicely, is there now is a third leg to that stool. There will be coating. All the coatings that you see around you will become functionalized. They will actively do something in the environment that's beneficial to you. They will produce oxygen. They will take pollen out of the air. They will self-clean themselves. They will self-decontaminate themselves. One really important thing I think we've all unfortunately experienced over the last couple of years is we are quickly moving out of the era of the antibiotic, and we're quickly moving in to the era of uber hygiene. That's what I call it. In other words, we're going to have to be really careful about the surfaces, what we breathe through masks, what we touch, and so the sterilizing surfaces are going to become very important. They already are. So those are the kinds of things that we do. You asked though how it is I got into this business. I have a PhD, and I quit polishing the apple a long time ago, though, Michael. I got to tell you. All right. Okay. And so I've always been an inventor. One of my colleagues who came from the same PhD laboratory I came from sometime, she said, Steve, you're not a scientist. I was offended, I'm like, Melinda, I got a PhD from the same damn place you did. And she said, no, you're an inventor. That's what you do. Mm-hmm. And at first I was offended, honestly. The more and more I thought about it though, I decided if I have to choose between being a scientist and being an inventor, I'll be an inventor. Mm-hmm. So honestly, that's what I do. We all passed through the 9/11 crisis. And at about that time, I was a practicing lawyer. I'm a patent attorney in my office in Austin, and had gone well beyond my PhD studies. In my PhD studies, I had studied enzymes capable of breaking down chemical weapons. So all of these investigative reporters were scurrying around trying to figure out how are we going to prevent terroristic attacks? What are we going to do if terrorists, and they have before, use chemical weapons? Mm-hmm. So they came and they actually went to my lab, my PhD laboratory, and they asked him, my PhD advisor, can you tell us about this? He said, well, you need to go talk to this guy. He's a lawyer in Austin. So here they come. Here comes about 4 or 5 different news stations come and they interviewed me. And in that interview, they asked me, can we utilize what you invented at your PhD laboratory, which is an enzyme capable of breaking down chemical weapons, to prevent a chemical weapons attack, or at least modify its effects? And I said the following. I said, not really. And I said, because chemical weapons, you hear them called nerve gases. They're not gases. They're aerosolized droplets. They drop on surfaces. That's how they do their nasty thing. You touch it. I mean, if you are unfortunately enough to breathe a bunch of it in, yeah, that's going to kill you. But mainly, it's what the purpose of it was is to prevent armies from being able to advance, because they could not touch the surfaces anymore. They could not use their tanks. They could not airplanes. They couldn't touch their weapons, their communicating devices. That's what it was for, and that's what it's used for today. They're still alive and well, I'm sorry to say. Anyway, long and short is this. So I said, the only way that you could use this enzyme that would be beneficial and like that was if you could somehow get it on those surfaces. If you could put this enzyme on the surfaces where the nerve weapons, the nerve gases, in fact, nerve gas droplets fall on surfaces, then you might have a chance. Well, a couple of months went by, and that went out to I think it hit Arkansas. It went out to several different states around the area. And I get a call. And I get a call from a friend of mine, who's an old friend of mine, a fraternity type friend. And he is a money raiser. And I can't tell you the number of times we've been drunk together. But anyway, long and short of it is this. He said, "Hey, McDaniel, I just saw you on TV." I said, "Yeah, I saw that." He said, "I heard what you said. Is that just bullshit?" And I said, "Well, Charlie, yeah, mainly, yeah. You're right. That's what it is." I haven't done it. I have no idea if it can be done or not.
Yeah.
I said, I've had some ideas, but he said, "Well, what if I would get you a sufficient amount of funding? Would you do it?" And today, Michael, sitting right here between you and I cannot tell you why I said yes. I have no idea. I was a successful attorney still, and I have no idea why I agreed to start a company, this company, Reactive Surfaces. And so we did. And the first thing we looked at is trying to make coatings with the enzymes that I had invented, and to see if we could prevent the impacts of a gas attack or a weapons attack. And we were successful. Honestly, it surprised me. Not at first. It took a while, but we were successful. And that just led from that functionality. We call them functionalities in nature. That led from that enzyme and that functionality to other things like peptides, the receptors, all kinds of things that come out of biology. My PhD is in molecular biology and biochemistry. And we just went forward, and that was 20 years ago. Well, I guess in 2018, the UN panel on climate change issued its report. And why all of us didn't know what the dire circumstances were before that time, we sure did now. By 2018, and I'm a father, all right. I am a father, and I thought, and frankly, I'm also a grandfather. But I thought to myself, I would not thought to myself that kind of. My wife says I was catatonic for a couple of weeks, because you're probably a father, or certainly have loved ones, and you're like, I do everything I can to prevent harm to my children, to make sure they're fed and clothed, they have a house, and they're going to get a college education. But I can't do a damn thing about this.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing that I can do. And that made me sick to my stomach. And so my wife, who's a president of our corporation, I said, we've got to try. We've got to take coatings and try to figure out how we can functionalize coatings so that they will pull down great gobs of CO2, because we got to do that. We've got to pull the CO2 out of the air, and we got to put it away so it won't come back. And that's what gave rise to this new company, Carbon Capture Coatings. I got to tell you, I'm very happy. That was 2018. Now here in 2023, and they are succeeding marvelously. And here's how we do it, Michael. We take small unicellular. Oh, let me back up. If you look we always look to nature when we're going to look for a functionality. What's in nature that we'd love to have in a coating, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the best systems out there that pull CO2 down are algae. Mm-hmm. Algae do a marvelous job of it, primarily in the ocean. About every other breath you're taking of oxygen was generated by algae in the ocean photosynthetically, where they're pulling down CO2 and releasing oxygen a few days ago. You and I, we are that connected to, it's crazy. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, I like to tell people, you can take the ape out of the biosphere, but guess what? You can't take the biosphere out of the ape. You got to have it. That's how we survive. So anyway, we thought, that's the best system. Why invent something? Why fix something that broke? And so we started looking at the possibility. I'd always thought it might be possible to take living cells and place them in a coating and to maintain them in that coating for long periods of time, doing what we want them to do, pulling down CO2. And sure enough, we were able to do it. That coating has gone through several iterations. We are presently building our first pilot plant in California. Our labs are in Mississippi, in California, in Tracy, California, just to the east of San Francisco. That plant is being built now, where we will be pulling down very large amounts of CO2 using these coatings. That's what we're doing. I hope. I'm going to have two requests of you and your viewers, and one of them is this: especially if you're a lot younger than I am, maybe Michael's age, is that don't despair. Honestly, I'm telling you, don't despair. And you can help, but let me tell you how you can help. But don't despair is number one. We're going to tackle this thing. We already are, not just me, but lots and lots of people are working on this. Okay. We are going to tackle it. Okay. It won't be easy. It won't be cheap. It will be hard and it will be expensive, but we are going to tackle it. But what you individually can do, and please don't stop recycling things, plastic, try to limit the number of plastics, drive an electric car, get some solar panels there. All those things are cool, but they're not going to do the trick. What's going to do the trick is what I'm talking about and other people on a large scale. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But what you can do, and I really hope every single one of you do that, is always have in your mind, in your vision, an earth in which we don't just survive, but where we thrive. Keep that in your head at all times. It's going to happen, but it'll help if you have those kinds of thoughts all the time. Every day when you wake up, know that we're going to tackle it and envision, how it would look, how green it would be, how clear the air would be, all of those things. Just keep that in your window shield in your car. Just do that for me, and you'll be doing a lot. That's what my message is, especially to young people who, honestly, I got to admit, you honestly have a legitimate grudge against the people who went before you. Okay, you do, but that's not going to help you. You can carry that grudge all you want to. That's not going to help you. Okay, what you have to do is become a part of the team. Put your shoulder to the wheel, and you can do that. And I can tell you how. So anyway, that's I'm sorry, that was a very long story about how we got to where we are. But right now we are building all sorts of coatings. We have we work with large paint companies, large specialty chemical companies, both manufacturers of coatings as well as users of coatings, and those kinds of things. I'll give you an example. You probably are using a cell phone or a screen on your computer, and you put your fingers on it, and guess what? There are fingerprints. Okay.
Yeah, it drives me nuts.
It drives everybody nuts. How many times a day do you take your phone and wipe it on your screen?
Right.
Okay, so wouldn't it be cool if we had a coating that actually broke those fingerprints down so that you don't have to worry about that anymore? And we do. And it's slowly coming into the market. It's going to become extremely important when we all start hopping in self-driving cars, to pull up to your house, and the guy that was in there before was eating some Cheetos, and Cheeto schmeckers on your screen. How do you get rid of that? You don't want that. And how are you going to get rid of that? So we have a coating called Degrees, and we've put it on all sorts of things, and it works very nicely. So some of the products that you'll see that in are paints and coatings. You see it in the sealants like caulk for your kitchen and things like that. You can buy it that way.
Fascinating.
Yep.
That's very cool. So it's yeah. So you're doing molecular stuff. I mean, this is so far ahead. I mean, above me. I'm trying to boil it down for me and my audience, but you're doing things at the molecular level with living organisms, infusing those into coatings that go on other surfaces that are going to do a lot of things, not just wipe off fingerprints, but pull down CO2 to make the climate better, to make life better in a way that 99% of people on Earth don't even know it exists, because it's just going to be there. Is that kind of?
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, don't break my arm to pat my back. Nature's doing it all the time.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
We're just saying, let's do what nature's doing. Okay.
Yeah.
The math though, Michael, is simple. And it's the same way in nature. The amount of CO2 you're going to pull down is the photosynthetic rate, which has a natural speed limit. Okay. I'll throw out a chemical term. You don't have to understand it. But it's the speed limit is 18 millimoles per second per meter squared times the surface area. So we can't do much about the photosynthetic rate. People have tried for eons to do something about the photosynthetic rate. We might can jack it around a little bit, maybe improve it a little bit. You know, we might get to 20 or something like that. But what we do control is the surface area. Now, why is that important? Well, I said it's the math, right? It's just the multiplier. Where do you get that much surface area? And why do we need that much surface area? Well, right now, you, me, and everybody else on the Earth are pushing something over 30 gigatons of CO2 in the atmosphere every year. Now let's pause for a minute, because honestly, I work with these numbers every day, and it's hard for me to even say what a gigaton is. So I have to put it in terms that I understand. And here's one way I describe it. 1,000 days ago, we each, which we can go back, were 3 years younger. Okay. 1 million days ago, Jesus Christ had yet to be born. 1 billion years ago, there were no humans, only pre-humans. That's the difference between 1 million and 1 billion, and 1,000 and 1 million. We've got to pull down CO2 in the gigatons, and we've got to do it, and we got to do it fast. All right. So using our technology, we need lots and lots and lots of surface area. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get our coatings onto as much surface area as possible. Well, there's a little problem with that. As much surface area as we need to coat is a vast amount if we're using horizontal surfaces. However, if you turn those surfaces up, the good thing about paint is you can paint high. It's basically an anti-gravity machine. You can paint it as high as you want. Okay. So we're going vertical. That's the surfaces we want to work on, vertical surfaces, except there is one other surface, and that's the surface of the ocean. We're great gods of that.
A lot of that.
And so if we can build, and we are building surfaces that can float atop the ocean, that can be painted and work like they do in the ocean, then we can tackle the gigaton amount.
Interesting.
We are competitors in the X Prize, and that X Prize is for carbon removal. In 2025, somebody's going to get a $50 million proving up the best method to remove carbon. We would love to be that, but it doesn't matter. What we have to do is act as if we would. And in the X Prize, you're going to have to show that you can pull down 1,000. Remember, I told you 1,000 billion big. You're going to have to prove that in a year's period of time you can pull down 1,000 and sequester. And I'll talk about that in a minute. They pull down 1,000 tons of atmospheric, directly from the atmospheric CO2 per year. That's not much, but you had to come up with a solid plan and submit it to the X Prize for doing that at 1 million tons per year. And we did. Not easy, but doable. The gigaton level is another kettle of fish.
Mm-hmm.
We had to, that's where when we had to come up with the ocean, we call it the ocean embodiment. That's where we stand a chance pulling down billions of tons. And that's where we're heading out. As fast as we can pedal our tricycle, that's what we're doing, Michael.
That's awesome. I love how you think and of possibilities and of what ifs. And one of my favorite questions for me and my clients and from a marketing, but it plays in here is how can I ... right? How can I solve this, whatever I have? And that's kind of what it sounds like you've done using different questions, but going, okay, how can we look at nature, we see what nature does, we say, how can I replicate that? How can I use that? How can I harness that? How can I? And I think that is a great lesson for everybody listening, let alone everything else we're talking about. But it's the mindset that you bring to it that made you an inventor, really. At the end of the day, obviously you are a scientist, but you're an inventor because you ask these questions and you're looking for solutions to challenges that are facing people. That's what we do all day, every day. It's the mindset that you bring. I love that.
Well, Einstein once said, and people would usually point out to him as a great thinker and a great innovator and a solver of problems. He's more than once he said this. He said, all my inventions, all the things I've come up with did not come from my intellect. They came from intuition and inspiration. That's where they come from. It's hard sometimes, but I'm going to give you a trick. I'll tell you a trick that I've been taught by some people, frankly, that are meditation specialists. Because tapping into your inspiration and into your intuition is not that easy.
Mm-hmm.
We can all tap into our intellect. We do that every day. We got a problem. But imagine this, Michael. I want you to stick your fingers through your arm straight out and put them straight, your fingers straight up, okay? And act like you're aiming a rifle, okay? In between those fingers is your sights.
Okay.
And you're looking at a bullseye and you're directly going that way, right? That's your intellect. That's what you're going to do to solve that. Now take those fingers and start spreading it. Keep your eye on the target because that's the problem. Now spread your fingers out.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you kind of have a hard time seeing. That's intuition. Okay. You're not able to tap into it, but it's there.
Yeah.
This cabeza, this computer on top of your head is unbelievable in the amount of information it stores that you're not even aware of.
Right.
Okay. Not immediately, right? And that's intuition. That's be able to tap into this. It's there. It's all there. Now inspiration. You've got it here. Here's your intellect. You're moving your fingers out till you can't see them anymore. They're so far behind you, even your peripheral. That's inspiration. Back there where you really don't know how to tap in. That's where you'll find inspiration. So all I'm saying is as you start to tackle problems, don't think you have to be like a hammer beating on a nail.
Yeah.
That's one way. And certainly it's something we have to do. But don't forget, like Einstein said, don't forget intuition and inspiration. Those are huge parts of your problem solving capabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that in and of itself is worth listening to this again, going back and re-listening to what Steve's been sharing, because it really is, whether it's solving issues around climate, whether it's creating new coatings for surfaces that help the earth, or whether it's learning how to do your business different, better, or loving your family more. It is that.
Absolutely.
It's
that's right.
Thinking differently and believing there is a solution. There is a way for you to get that 100 gigabyte file, whatever. It's possible. You don't know what it is today, but you will figure it out because of the way you think, right?
Yeah. If you allow yourself that luxury,
yeah,
I think you will find that it, as Michael says, I think you'll find it to be life-changing.
Yeah.
And if you don't tap into that, then you're going to be hitting that nail on the head for a long time.
That's right.
So, try to break yourself of that habit. You asked earlier about, what individuals could do. And I told you, keep the vision and certainly do all your recycling and everything. But, and I told you that each one of us is responsible for a certain amount of that 30 gigatons that goes up in the air. I'll tell you what that number is. Each one of us is, on average across the planet, is responsible for 4 tons per year. Unfortunately, we Americans sitting in Texas and Arkansas are responsible for about 16 tons a year. Okay. And then, of course, there are lots of places in sub-Saharan Africa that are responsible for 0 tons per year. All right. So, but on average, 4. All right. So right now we build our surface area and something we call a module. It's a meter cube box. And we put the vertical surfaces in there with the algae in them, and we give them energy, either solar or LED light, and they do what we're doing. We are trying to build a module that, or a series of modules that will, what we call that as a personal offset device, where you personally on your back porch could put one of these modules and start offsetting your particular CO2 contribution. And, you know, I'm going to use an example. I have these to play with. I play with these blocks a lot. These are just stackable blocks. And so we just stack the number that we need to offset your 4 tons per year. That goes on your back porch. They're a meter. They go up. They're a meter cubed each. Okay. Now, I haven't figured it out yet, Michael, but I'm working with companies that might help me do that. Is we have a little bit over 8 billion people on the planet. If we could get 1 billion of them working personal offset devices, that's a big bite.
It is.
That's a big, big bite. It's hard to do that by individual companies, individual organizations, countries, etc. But if everybody was doing it, just doing a little bit, that would help a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We're working on the personal offset devices as we speak. So yeah.
I think it's great. You know, everybody has a mailbox, right? Everybody has a car. Everybody has all these things. Why not have one of these personal offset devices and sit it there and let it do some of the work to help? Steve, this is unbelievably fascinating. I'm sure I could ask you all kinds of questions. We could be here a long, long, long time, because it's just, you just keep opening up ideas. How do people find out more about the carbon capture coatings and about the other things that you're doing, just to, if they're half as intrigued as I am, they're going to want to go and just get some information or something. Where do they go?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how technical they are. Okay. If they're very technical and they really want to dig in this at the technical level, we just published a very expansive article in the Journal of Carbon Dioxide Utilization. It's on our website. And if you want to read all 19 pages, God bless you. You know, but you can get a deep dive doing that, but you don't have to do that. We published a number of different lay articles, not scientific, but at the lay level, and the non-scientist level, that describe what we're doing. And I mean, paint, everybody knows what paint is, right? I mean, it's just the magic that we put into it, the chemistry that I have incredibly talented chemists working for me. And I learn from them every day. But it's just that if you wanted to do that, then go to the website, reactive surfaces, that's like surfaces that you paint, and .com, and you'll see in there where we start to discuss carbon capture coatings. If that level is sufficient, then that's where you can stop.
I think that's great. Reactivesurfaces.com. I'm going to have that in the show notes as well. So if you're out walking the dog or maybe painting the back deck, I don't know, and you're listening to this, you can go to the show notes and you find that out, reactivesurfaces.com, and just start digging in and understanding a little bit more about what Steve and his team are doing to help make the world a better place in a variety of ways. And it would be very, very intriguing. So Steve, thank you for being here. You're obviously an expert. I love the passion that you bring to what you're doing, because that and your thinking combined are reactive in nature, and that's what helps propel you to make a difference. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. And I'll ask one favor yet again.
Sure.
Everybody start to envision all the time a world that's thriving, not just surviving, to thrive. Okay.
That's a great vision. We'll take it with us, Steve. Thank you so much, sir.
You bet.